Hello, everybody, and welcome back to RPS at Home, where this week we are comparing and contrasting. Hold on again while I share my screen. So, our learning target for today is that the student will be able to compare and contrast a literary text to an informational nonfiction text. Before we move further, let us review the anchor chart that we have for compare and contrast. For compare and contrast, we have the definition of the two. When we compare, we are talking about how two things are similar or the same or alike. When we are contrasting, on the other hand, we're talking about how things are different. And we can use keywords such as in contrast or although or however. In addition, we can use a Venn diagram to organize our thoughts and ideas when we are comparing and contrasting. Yesterday, we completed a Venn diagram where we compared two fictional stories. We compared Stop the Hungry Giant Fish to MVP. We discussed how both of these stories were similar because they had story elements with character settings, problems, and solutions. The theme of the story was the same. Everyone was working together to achieve a goal. But the difference in the two stories were the goal, for one. In The Hungry Giant Fish, the goal was to save their island, but the goal in MVP was to win the championship. Today, we're going to read another story from Common Lit, and the title of this story is Working at the Hospital. Now, when we take a look at this story, it's different when you look here. It's not an illustration. There is a photograph for this story. And this is a clue to let me know that working at the hospital is not a fictional story. It must be fiction because it includes a photograph. This story was written by Barbara Rader. Let's begin. Please follow along. Have you ever visited the hospital? If you have, you have likely met doctors and nurses, but did you know there are other jobs that need to be completed at the hospital? In this informational text, Barbara Rader discusses who works at the hospital. As you read, I want you to think about the different jobs that are important at a hospital. Now, I chose this story because in the news, we're hearing a lot about coronavirus and how people have had to go to the hospital. And we know that the doctors and the nurses are there to help people who are sick with this virus. But there are other people who work at the hospital that we don't see that help keep the hospital running, that help these patients get well. And we don't even think about how their role is important. Okay, let's continue to read. Paragraph 1. There are many jobs at the hospital. Some people work as nurses, some people work as doctors. You probably know about those jobs. There are many other jobs at the hospital. If you are a patient in a hospital, you will meet different workers. It might start with an ambulance driver. That worker helps people get to the hospital quickly. Some workers take care of visitors to the hospital. The visitors have to sign in. The receptionist sign them in. The receptionist makes sure they can find the right places in the building. They are the first workers you will see when you come into a hospital. Some workers make food at the hospital. They have a big kitchen. They cook food for the patients. Some patients need a special diet. The workers need to plan their meals carefully. They need to make sure they get good food. Some workers help keep the hospital clean. It is very important that the building is clean. They will clean all the rooms every day. People who are sick need to have really clean rooms. That helps them get better. Some workers run a cafeteria. That is a place where people can get food. Patients get their food delivered to their rooms. The people who work at the hospital need to eat. They go to the cafeteria to get their food. The workers cook and serve food. Some workers help with computers. Doctors need to use computers. So do most of the other workers. The people who help with computers show them how to use them. They fix the computers too. Each of these workers need to learn skills. They keep learning even after they get their job. Doctors have the most to learn. They need to keep learning because medicine keeps changing. So in this story, working at the hospital, we learned about other jobs and other roles that people play to make sure that patients get well. We know about doctors and nurses, but they mention other workers, such as the ambulance driver in paragraph 1. They mention the receptionist who works in the front of the hospital. They mention people who make the food and prepare special meals for people who have dietary restrictions. We learned about people that help keep the hospital clean. Now, the janitors are probably one of the most important people at the hospital because this line right here where it says people who are sick need to have really clean rooms really stood out to me because it said when their room is clean, it helps them to get better. And we also have people that work on the computers because we see doctors walking around with the computers to input information that they gather from the patients. And if the computer messes up for some reason, they have to have someone to repair it. So all of these people are working to make sure that the hospital is running properly so the people who come there who are sick and ill and have all different type of problems, they can get well and be able to go home because of the work that people do at the hospital. And that's something that I want us to keep in mind, especially during this time when we are hearing a lot about people who are going in and out of the hospital during this pandemic. What we're going to do now, in order to compare the hungry giant fish to working at the hospital, is to play a Kahoot game. So, what I would like for you to do is write down our game pin number, which is 08546074. You can pause the video if you need to so that you can go to Kahoot.com, press play, and enter our game pin. There are 5 questions that I want you to answer. Please make sure you read the questions carefully. I'm going to check in and see who has the highest score. You can get a high score by not only answering quickly, but you have to answer the questions correctly. Also, if you would like for someone in your family to do this with you, have them read the 2 stories that we read and let them play the game as well and compare their score to yours. This is the end of our lesson for today. Tomorrow, we're going to finish our last day for compare and contrast. I hope you enjoy the game. Bye.